in this episode.
You always think of it as like a calorie game.
So the most frustrating thing as trainers for high school athletes is talking with them and saying, hey, you need to gain weight. A month goes down the road, 2 months go down the road, and then we see them the next year and they still look the same. And you're like, I told you to gain weight. He's like, Coach, I try. I eat all the time, but I'm not gaining any weight.
If you're serious about your nutrition and you can get a plan and you can follow it, you should get results. If you're going to the gym, you're breaking down muscle fiber, you're rebuilding it by replenishing with carbs and protein, you should grow.
What's your thoughts on energy drinks?
We don't even realize how bad we feel that we think it's normal to drink energy drinks at 15 or 16. Yeah. That's not normal.
How are those conversations go when you talk about character with the other parents?
I constantly talk about, creating captains over MVPs, right? Like, I don't think our job coaching 8 and 9U is to create the next Derek Jeter. But like, I would feel that we did our job as coaches, that when we hand these kids off at 14 to either a Tigers coach or a high school or college, like, that coach looks at that kid and says, somebody got their teeth into this kid and did a really good job.
Hey guys, in this episode, we have two guests, Jillian and Jason Tedesco. Jillian and Jason are coaches inside of the Rawlings Tigers. What's really interesting about them is that they live a fast-paced lifestyle. Jillian owns her own business. Jason has a full-time job, and they are running a Tigers team inside of our organization here in St. Louis. I thought this was a great opportunity to talk about Jillian's background, which is nutrition, eating. We're in that middle of the winter where we're trying to gain ground and get stronger for the season. Also, what about in season where the summer ends up being very hectic for us? How do we actually eat healthy where we're able to sustain energy and not crash, and we're able to go the full 8 weeks of the season? So we're going to dive into that topic before we jump into the conversation, because when you listen to it, it's just going to jump right into us actually talking and getting into the topics. Jillian is the owner of Fit Flavors, which they have 5 locations here in St. Louis. They're working on their 6th. And what is Fit Flavors? It is a restaurant that makes fresh prepared meals for healthy, conscious, busy people. All their menu items are nutritionally balanced. They're made with quality ingredients and ready to heat and eat. This is not an advertisement at all. We just really enjoy talking with her. She is a certified chef from Le Cordon Bleu. She's a speaker, has her own podcast, and she just released her new book, Owning the Weight. She is a wife and a mother, and she is a Tiger coach. And then Jason is the head coach of their 9U squad. He has a full-time job, and I just find it interesting that they have this busy lifestyle, Dave, and they're now running a 9U team, and they talk a lot about culture. They talk a lot about community. This conversation just went in so many different directions. I have the timestamps in the description, but I feel like this deserves your ears for the full episode.
Yeah, it was a really cool conversation that went into a lot of different paths. And what we can take away from this one, and you guys will hear through this episode, is the genuine care behind their voices and why they do it and why it's so impactful to their lives, whether that be the nutrition side of things or the attention to detail and care and culture that they're trying to captivate with their team. And there's a lot of really neat takeaways from this episode that can be applicable to, our audience from a nutrition side, from a sports player development side, from a culture side, from really just being a really good human. So there's a lot of good stuff. And
they give you information for parents on how they handle Sal and Vincent, their 2 boys, and how they handle their nutrition. You'll be pleasantly surprised on what her answer is and what his answer is. The reason that I wanted to do this episode is I want to develop awareness around the importance of food for not just our athletes, but our coaches. Players are struggling to gain weight. Teams lose momentum at the end of a long tournament weekend and into the summer. How can we get the most out of our bodies? And that's for coaches too, because we're running those long days where we're going from late at night, writing up the lineup, to then going early morning and then trying to keep the same energy level with our kids. And nutrition plays a huge factor in that, and sleep plays a huge factor in that. And they answer these questions. So I want to talk more about coaching with Jason and how he handles his job. And then also we're going to dive in a little bit deep on the business side with Jillian. I think a lot of those business minded people are coaches that are corporate 500 or they have their own business. I think they'll find her answers really interesting. So guys, thank you for being listeners. Thank you for following us. Please make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Give us a review. We view that review system as a gauge of how we are doing. So the more reviews we have, whether it's good or it's bad, it gives us really good feedback on how we can develop this episode and develop these episodes and move it forward. So, and guys, if you have any suggestions on guests, I'm open to it. This is not just our show. We want to make sure that we're hitting on the right guests. If you think someone would be a really good fit for us, please reach out to me. My email is at spiker@rawlingstigers.com, or you can tweet at me at spikerhelms. You can also tweet at Dave at David_Burkby. Enjoy this episode.
You kind of gradually see their production levels go down. Now they get kind of a shot of energy for the summer a little bit because they're switching environments. They're in a different uniform around different players. So they kind of get a little boost there. But they really, more times than not, especially on the high school level, and I'm sure it's at the younger level too, it's just a war of attrition. And they're not focusing on keeping up in the weight room, keeping up with their nutrition, keeping up with everything that goes into what they built up. So what he's saying is, now it's a real grind through the June, July months where it's really hot.
Yeah.
You're playing a ton of games, and they're just zombies by the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And those are really important weeks for a lot of those guys too, especially as you get older into the recruiting cycle, which we talk about. So
yeah,
and those energy levels, and I don't think it's just the bodies itself, just mentally.
Wow.
I feel like it's a more stressful situation when you go from week 1 to week 6, and I have a feeling that it's not proper sleep, it's nutrition, and then it's also not working out, because the idea is I'm playing a sport, I'm playing a game, I'm working out already. But baseball's not very, what's the best word?
You're not running all the time.
Yeah, you're not burning enough calories. Manny Ramirez said it really well when he was coming back from his injury. I just remember this very vividly on ESPN when I was playing, is that Manny Ramirez said it's different working out and then going and playing baseball. The soreness is completely different. And you have to do both. You have to work out and you have to be able to play a lot of games so that you get your feet under you. And when we were coaching this last summer, the first thing that guys would be eating is Chick-fil-A or Chipotle.
something easy.
Yeah, something easy, something quick. McDonald's. I think one person went to
4 McChickens before a game.
Culver's. And so the nutrition just is not there. And then first game in the morning is probably going to be your best game, because everyone is probably going to load up on carbohydrates at the hotel. So they're going to have that quick energy boost. But then when you get into the second game, it's
done.
Let's just try to survive.
And then you're saying by day 3, Sunday,
it's awful.
Trash.
Yeah,
championship.
it's gone.
There's no
game.
way you're not surviving.
Yeah. So when you were saying all this stuff, just the environment changes, but now they're in the summer. I mean, they're also out of school, so they're probably staying up later. They're not getting the adequate amount of sleep that they need, and then it goes into discipline and who's more structured with their lifestyle and their kids, and it's sometimes I feel like our kid's going to be that disciplined to carry their sleep and their eating and their fitness into the summer.
But how do you keep that? How do you do structure? Kids are the anti-structure.
Right. Exactly.
They're the rebels.
Right.
Every day.
I mean, I guess that's the differentiator is the kids that are
day.
more structured are probably the ones that are
For sure.
keeping it together. And
For sure. And there are some that do that really well. And they're, we try to promote that type of information, but it's a wall
underrated.
you have to break through every day. You have to, like you said, it's a war every day to break through that structure, because they're going to take the easy way out if they can.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times it's them seeing maybe their buddy on the team who is disciplined with it, who does kind of understand. We had a couple of those players, and then all of a sudden his stats keep going through the roof throughout the year, and he's not slowing down. He's instead picking up because the rest of his competition is going like this, and they start to wonder why. that's kind of what we end up seeing. But
He's not on TikTok till 2 a.m.
no.
That app is the killer of dreams right there.
Killer.
It's the killer of dreams, because if you go on that ballpark and you have 4 hours of sleep and you're facing 93, it's no bueno. That's not fun.
Yeah.
No.
That's not fun.
No.
You guys are extremely busy, and what made you the decision to like jump in on a Tiger team and starting a Tiger team?
So I actually started the team as a 6U team, just rec team in kindergarten. I started it because when we went to sign up for baseball, the team that we were going to get put on had like 14 or 15 players already. And I said to Jillian, I'm like, I don't want to be on a 6U team with 15 kids. Like, they're not going to get to play. So I just called Chesterfield Little League and I said, hey, can I start a team? And they were like, yeah, sure, start a team. So we put out a memo on Facebook, and next thing I know, we had 10 or 12, 11 or 12 kids from our kindergarten, and we built a great 6U team. And then had everyone, and then, right between the change from 8 to 9 years when we decided to move to the Tigers Club.
And are you saying, like, why would we start?
Why
a team?
in general?
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Why in general?
I don't think you
Because-
answered the question.
Because here's
Yeah.
my thought is like it is hard to find good coaches.
Really hard.
It's really hard. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if parents realize that, but it is really hard.
I could speak
Yeah.
to this. I think I knew what you guys were asking. He didn't really answer it. I think, the conversation that we had is, we're going to be going to practices, we're going to be going to games, and whenever they are. This was one way to kind of like dictate the schedule around our schedules.
Sure.
Like he travels, I run a business, so like if we had the team, we could schedule the practices when we wanted to.
That's not my answer.
But was helpful, and like
Sure.
being able to do that, and then also like he's a very, very organized person. He's probably the more organized of the two of us. I always say he's the house admin.
Probably.
I just show up. So I was like, he likes the organization of this kind of stuff, and I think just our passion playing with the kids, it was just so much fun. When he told me he wanted to do this, I was like, can I please do it with you? Because, I played ball too, and I wanted to play. I just wanted to be out there doing it as a form of like just being a kid again, in a sense,
I mean, to answer the difference, I was very lucky growing up. Like, I had great coaches. I played baseball, I played lacrosse, I played football. Like, I can remember all my coaches. Like, I had a really, really good experience with coaches as a kid. And, I just thought, like, when we had kids and they're growing up, figuring out, like, what sports they were going to play, we just got lucky. Like, both our boys are obsessed about baseball, like, knock on wood. And I just said, if I had the chance to give back and do for kids what was done for me when I was younger, like, I'd be all into it. And I just viewed that as sort of an opportunity to like create an environment for 12 kids to hopefully provide some really good memories and some really good learning experiences for them. Personally, like, I think my best attributes as a person are my patience and my positivity. And if you've ever been around 6 and 7 year old boys playing baseball, like you need patience more than baseball skills probably at that age. And I have an enormous amount of patience, and I think, I'm just a very positive person overall, and I just wanted to give that to the kids.
Yeah, we had a conversation with Devin Morgan, who's at Driveline, which is a big baseball company, and he says a lot of people over-index on the skill side of things for like knowledge and stuff. I think that for youth coaches, they over-index on that, and they under-index like what he's saying, which is positivity and just being a good person in front of
you.
You
got to be comfortable saying the same thing over and over,
Yeah.
like you're saying it for the first time with excitement, because you're going to do it for 6 years. Yeah, right.
I think another thing too. He took a lot of pride in was like he did a lot of research. He read some books.
Sure.
He was listening to podcasts. He had a friend who coached Little League for 20 years, and like he was trying to do all the research that he could to be a Little League coach, because we kind of walked in, we didn't know what we were doing,
I think that's awesome, because I think what I hear more times than not from just talking to parents who aren't going to take that responsibility is they do look at it as a daunting task. I mean, you guys are busy. You have a business. You're full-time workers. I mean, you're constantly at the grind. And then what most people look at as a youth coach is this added on giant responsibility. And they're like, I want nothing to do with it.
I think with anything in life, whether it's your career or something like this, like if you enjoy doing it, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Like I've been very blessed in my career where I've been doing my job for 20 years. It's never felt like work once. And I can honestly say the same thing about baseball. Like I love the sport. I love seeing the enjoyment from the kids. It could be daunting to some people. That just means it's not right for them. But for me, it felt right. It feels fine doing it. Natural.
I was just gonna say, when you're out there, like you can't be on your phone, so like it's therapeutic in a way too. Yeah, you're so present.
notifications.
You're so present out
Yeah.
there, which I love.
Yeah.
Well, and what we see too, because I obviously don't coach at the youth level. We oversee an organization, but I don't coach directly. But I hear it all the time about the experience level that you guys are giving to those young kids. And I view that as a really big responsibility.
It's huge.
And a huge impact you're making on those kids' lives. And I can only imagine that, being parents and going through the process, you saw a void and a need for that. And I think that that's something where people are kind of running away from that responsibility. We're kind of, with this podcast, with what we do with the Tigers, I think we're trying to help people get more involved in it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's rewarding overall. Like the first time I head coached our high school team, 15U team, it's like they're just now getting out of youth baseball. At the end of that year, it felt so rewarding. Like it felt like I had so much more energy for the remainder of the year. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. You're going to spend a lot of time on it. There's going to be a lot of energy output, but at the end of the day, it's like we had that conversation before we started. Like kids, I just have a newborn, and it feels like I'm getting energy out of nowhere. I feel so tired, but I'm still jacked up about being here and trying to help you.
Totally.
So, you guys are former athletes, right? Mm-hmm. College, high school,
Just high school.
High school. Yep.
just high school. And then what sports did you play?
Baseball, football, lacrosse.
He bowled. Don't let him.
I bowled too when I was younger. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Really good
Yeah.
bowler.
Yeah.
Softball, basketball, volleyball.
Okay.
I didn't play golf till I was 25.
Oh wow.
Was that just a way to keep in the competition?
That was a
side of
way
things?
to like
Spend time with me.
spend time with him. I knew I was like, and I was not playing ball, so I was like, oh, this could be something maybe I could get good at, and then I just got sucked in. Yeah.
It can do that.
Oh, yeah.
Describe healthy eating.
Describe healthy eating.
And where I'm going with this is
Yeah.
the word healthy can go in so many different
Yeah.
directions.
Yeah.
Like you can see a commercial. I saw, you're going to laugh at this. I saw a Coca-Cola commercial from 1964. And it was a mom who was sewing a dress. And she was talking about how thin she was. And her secret sauce was
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
I saw ads from back in the 30s and stuff. They were promoting sugar was helping you lose weight. Like, yeah, I've seen that.
And they used the word healthy. So what does healthy mean to you?
Yeah, so I was gonna say that's kind of vague. And what does it mean to me,
Yeah.
or what do I think it should mean? For it's so individualized, because if somebody has health issues or certain goals, their plan for what they do needs to fit them. But my philosophy is very simple. I believe in three things: quality food, in portion control, and balanced with all the macronutrients. And that's kind of how I built Fit Flavors. It's the philosophy of get the best quality product you can, how you source it, how you make it, portion control it. So even if you are going to have a little cheese or a little chocolate, it's still in portion control, and then balance the macronutrients. And the whole thing with the macronutrients is that's where it gets a little sciencey, but when I get into the macros and the micronutrients is really fun because we're watching the sodium, the sugar, the fiber, the fat, the saturated fat, all those things, and making sure we know what's going to happen with the meal when it goes into your body.
I feel like people don't value quality food as much.
I don't think so either. And I think it's where your values lie, and I think a lot of that could be miseducation, maybe not knowing enough about it, what it's doing to your body, how it's making you feel, why it's impacting your sleep. People have so many symptoms, I think, that they live with because they don't even realize what it would be like not to have those symptoms. And a lot of times just eating better will clear up a lot of that. There's so many people walking around with gut problems, and, certain foods just exacerbate that, and then a downward spiral of symptoms that they feel. Either it's acid reflux, gas, upset stomach, skin problems.
Yeah, I find it, I just find human nature interesting where someone will be mad, argue with a price of I'm going to a steakhouse, which is if you go to a really nice steakhouse, what is it going to be? A plate like 50, 60 bucks?
Yeah, at least.
And then
Unless you're eating Wagyu.
yeah, but then they'll go to McDonald's and get a $3 hamburger. Technically, it's coming from the same animal, but the food quality is totally different. But they're willing to say, I'm going to go buy a Tesla, and they value the car more than the food, which the food is going to help you actually sustain and actually live your life a little bit better. And your mindset's going to be a little bit clearer. I just find that interesting. Do you have any comments on that?
I just go back to the lack of knowledge. I think if people realize, like you just said, you might think clearer. Yeah, like they might not realize that the impact of food has on their mental focus, or like how well they're going to sleep due to their digestion and what is harder on their digestion. I think people just are misinformed with nutrition as a whole. And so we just look at food as like a dollar amount.
What do you think the starting point is? Like,
you just,
because I'm trying to think back of how I got involved with eating healthy.
Yeah, for me, the same thing. I was just trying to figure it out and try to understand. And I had my own journey with nutrition. I started off and I got put down the wrong path, and I did a little yo-yoing when I first started, and it was just trying to follow fads to look a certain way with my diet, and then realizing I didn't feel well. And then I was like, God, I'm gonna have to really learn this stuff. So just understanding basic nutrition, and then understanding, like when I was looking at food labels, I was more concerned about the macros than I actually was the ingredients. And so if it didn't say there was any sugar, but it could have sugar alcohols in it, like I would consume it, and I wondered why I felt so bad. And I'm eating all this sugar alcohol, and it was giving me gas and upset stomach and headaches. And so I started looking at where my food was coming from in the ingredient list, and if I could see how many chemicals and processed things were in my food. And then I started eating more quality foods, and that's what was the biggest life changer for me.
Do you think people default on brand? Like they see a brand and then they just start?
Yeah. So like you can get really confused with marketing nowadays. Like when you go to the grocery store, I mean, like, especially if you're in a rush and maybe you don't know how to read labels, you just see marketing and it'll say 100% natural or gluten-free, and it'll put gluten-free on something that wouldn't typically be gluten anyways, because people don't even know what gluten is. So they just think, I shouldn't eat it. It's gluten-free. This means it's good for me. So there's a way that marketers will put like buzzwords and like catchphrases on their products to draw a consumer in. And then if they have a really clean branded label, it can actually look healthier than it is. But you just have to read the labels.
It's the fine print.
Yeah, it's the ingredient list. It's really the ingredient list first, then the macros, in my opinion.
So explain macros real quick, because I'm sure a lot of people.
Everyone's probably like,
a lot of people aren't.
Sure.
For one, I went on through the first format with him about a year ago.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was like, what is this macros thing you're talking about, dude?
So macronutrient, all of that means is it's a fat, a carbohydrate, or a protein. Those are all macronutrients, and we need those to survive. There are micronutrients, which are all like your small vitamins and minerals. Like a micronutrient is sodium or potassium.
C, D.
Yeah, all that stuff. Micronutrients.
All the alphabet letters.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, and I when I first got introduced to it, I the way I used it was I never really understood. You always think of it as like a calorie game.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I always looked at calories,
Okay.
and I was like, okay, well, if I go to the gym and my watch says I burned 500 calories, but this meal cost me 1,000, I'm at a 500 deficit, and whatever. So that's kind of how I thought about it. But the macro side of it kind of changed it for me. It kind of gamified it.
It's a little bit more
detailed,
dialed in. It's a little bit more. I don't want to say high level because I don't want to scare people, but like. Sometimes when you're starting off, it can be a little overwhelming to just start tracking your macros. Sure. I mean, it's an all-in kind of thing, and it can be overwhelming because you're counting every single thing. I'm sitting across from Spiker. I mean, he's in phenomenal shape. So, like, for you, it is your lifestyle. You've always done it. But for someone who's new coming in, I don't typically suggest that right off the bat. Like, I'm like, do you even know what a carbohydrate is or how many different types of carbohydrates there are? Because most people don't understand there's starchy carbs, fibrous carbs, and sugar carbs.
100%.
And then sugar alcohols, and then they're all digested different, and they all create a different insulin response in your body as well. So if you can get people to understand just basic stuff and then step up, I think that's more of like, I call it calculus of nutrition.
Okay.
Is counting macros. And some people can jump right in. They're really good with numbers and they can start doing it.
So then what's your suggestion? What's the starting point? Like if I'm not counting macros, what's my starting point?
Quality, portion control, and balance is a good place to start, just to get people started.
Okay, so break that down for me.
So
Open that up a
quality
little bit.
is like where your food comes from, how it's prepared, like reading the ingredient list. Okay, that's quality. So if you can flip a food over and you start reading the ingredient list and you're like, okay, I know what all this stuff is, or holy cow, this is really long. There's a bunch of preservatives.
They're like whole food, naturally sourced. Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking
I mean, well, if you read the ingredient list, you're going to see what is actually in the product you're consuming. I mean, if it's something that comes in a refrigerator, it's probably just that product, unless it's like a cheese or something. But like once you go to the pantry, it's a processed food, okay? And now it is preserved to stay in your pantry. And some of processed foods, I mean, they're less, how do you want to rephrase that? There are some foods in the pantry that create more of a negative impact on your body, okay? And some are more processed than others. I love the example of like oatmeal. So it starts off as groat, then it goes to a steel cut oat, then it's a old-fashioned rolled oat, then it's a quick oat, then it's an instant oat. And the further and further along that oat gets processed, the faster and faster it digests in your body, and the more of the micronutrients are stripped from it, and the macronutrients. So less fiber, it digests faster in your body. It's not going to give you sustained energy. So much changes when food is processed. So understanding the quality of your food, I believe, is so important, because when you can put whole food in your body, it's like putting medicine in your body. Yeah. When you put processed food in, it's like a foreign object, if you think about it.
For sure.
It's not the way God intended us to eat, was a bunch of processed food, but it's everywhere these days.
So your whole foods would be like chicken, steak, fish,
rice, potatoes,
anything that's in a bag that you have to actually cook.
Yeah, I mean, and typically it's a one ingredient food. I mean, like,
so I guess a good rule of thumb is if I look at the ingredients label and the ingredients list is short, that's probably going to be a whole food.
It's awesome. Yeah, that's what your
body's
going to
want. To put a baseball spin on it, calories can be like total pitch count, and your macros are like balls and strikes.
Oh, that's a really good point.
You know what I mean?
I like that.
That's a really good point. So the first is quality. This is my opinion. So people understanding quality is important and valuing it.
Willing to pay more. And I think everybody knows that one. I think deep down you understand the quality of the food you're looking at.
Yeah, but I don't think people are paying attention to it when they're making food choices.
That's true.
Okay?
For sure.
Or they wouldn't be eating from the gas station.
They'll make excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, they view it as like, this is cheap.
What's easy?
This is cheap. This is easy.
Quick.
I'm going to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, you're going to pay for it too in the way you feel.
Sure. 100%.
Mic drop.
I mean, it's all, yeah.
When should someone actually start? Do you recommend athletes like going into macros at all?
Oh, totally. I mean, like, I'm not saying I'm against that. I'm just saying like
at some point you should graduate to macros.
If that's needed, like I said, some people are very diligent and routine and they need that structure. Other people, it could be a reverse effect on them because it becomes so psychological and mental that they get obsessive about counting their macros, and now they don't have the best relationship with food. And then you could walk down the fair lines of feeling resentment after you eat, self-sabotage, guilty, and then you start sneaking food. I mean, I could go on and on about how that was me years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I did not have a healthy relationship with food. I used to obsess about numbers, and when I let all that go, and I just said, I'm gonna focus on quality, portion control, and balance. I can look at a plate and say, I know that's what I need, and I'm good. I don't count anything, and I have never for years. Everybody's got to do what works for them, but I'm also not a numbers person.
I think that's really important. I think everybody
is different.
For sure.
And you know what? And
Plus, we consume a lot of our products.
I also know all the macros.
Got a home field advantage.
Spiker, I also know all this stuff in my head, so I don't need to count it. But somebody who doesn't, I mean, I have experience with this, so it's like I've done it enough. I know. You probably done it enough.
I know, but I like seeing the number.
Yeah, and that's good.
But
it works for you.
Also, just the background, I was an economics major. Okay. So I do like to see the numbers. It shows me that I'm actually doing something, and I can always follow that blueprint. If I don't have that blueprint, then I'm kind of just like, I'm floating in the wind
Yeah.
and not knowing
so
what to do.
it's good. You like the structure, you like the discipline. So, and you found it has worked for you.
Yes.
But the second thing I would say is like people understanding proper portions. Because if you put the proper portion on your plate, and if you're training, you need a double portion of carbohydrates or whatever, that's when those macros will grow with your goals. So like you can bring them in. Odds are is you need someone guiding you with macros, whether it's MyFitnessPal, I think you can put in your goals and your weight and all that, and it'll give you like, here's what you're supposed to consume, and being able to get it as close to that as you can, but then you got to be consistent with it,
Yep. Can you break down fats and carbohydrates? Because I think that gets a little lost in the mud.
Sure. So they're both sources of energy. So fat has 9 calories per gram, where carbohydrates only have 4. Protein also has 4 calories per gram. So like when you eat a carb, it's burned off once you've burned 4 energy units.
That's
4
good.
grams,
Mhm.
yes.
Yep.
Whereas fat is more than double. Okay. The way your body breaks down fat, it's much slower. It's just more a compound molecule than a carbohydrate. But if you're eating a complex carbohydrate that's more fibrous, it will break down slower. But once you get into those like more simple carbohydrates, they digest so fast. As soon as they hit your tongue, they start breaking down to glucose. So
would you say that this is a fair assessment that carbohydrates are like putting leaves onto a fire, and then fats are like putting twigs into a fire, and then protein is like putting a log into a fire?
kind of, I guess. Yes. I mean, it really depends, because also too, when you build a meal, like if you're eating one food by itself, that's one thing. But once you combine all the food together in a balanced meal, and you've got your protein, your fat, and your carbohydrate, you are going to have sustained energy because you've got the right type of fuels. It's when we fuel with too many carbohydrates, the wrong type of carbohydrates, it just leaves us feeling bleh. And your body can only process so much at one time. So if you don't need it or use it right then, and you don't have anywhere to store it, your body will convert it to body fat.
So then here's the question for players then. Do I want to load up on carbs, or is it still a balanced meal?
Again, it's so specific. I mean, I'd have to know the player, know their goal, know their weight. There's so much. Are they working out? Like I don't want to like put anything on here.
There's no blueprint.
Right. There isn't. But for the most part, if you're eating a balanced diet plan all the time and you're feeling good, that's a good sign. But if you're trying to lose weight, maybe you watch what you're consuming and you make sure you're not eating super, super large portions. But if you're trying to gain weight, you might need to be consuming more fat, more protein, or more carbohydrates. And this is where like working with a registered dietitian would come in. I don't do like diets for people because it's a little over my pay grade.
Well, and let's go down just this a player and coach kind of route, because that's a vast majority of our audience anyhow.
Totally.
So I think about this conversation, and from a coaching standpoint, I think that coaches are obviously they're being pressed, a lot of energy being used, where it's in practice, a season, coaching, whatnot. They want sustained energy throughout that, right? A player has specific goals on the field. They want to obviously see their stats, their power increase, their velocity increase, their speed increase. They want to see the development process continue. But I think that, at least, and I'll speak from the coaching standpoint, by myself, I have no idea about nutrition.
Yeah.
I am very, very basic with it. And I played college sports, which is kind of crazy. I didn't get taught much then. It was more like, okay, you worked out, now drink a protein shake. They didn't really tell you why, but you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And then, you eat relatively well, but, you're a college kid, and they didn't tell you the negatives of, well, putting this in your body is going to make you feel this way, and that's going to detract on the field. And certainly high school athletes, and I would assume younger athletes for sure, have no basic knowledge of nutrition at all whatsoever.
It takes a back seat.
They don't even understand the ramifications of putting a Big Mac in your body and how that's going to make you feel. I mean, they have nothing.
It takes a back seat, and what's weird about college sports is that you have a bunch of Lambos in the clubhouse, and then you're feeding them unleaded gasoline. That doesn't make any sense. And I was in the same boat. Missouri State didn't do any of that. Like we could consult with somebody, but it wasn't to the extent of like actual knowledge, and like, because you have to learn it. It's a day in, day out process. It's more of like a classroom setting than anything else.
I read a book written by the trainer of Michael Jordan.
Grover.
Oh, Grover.
Tim Grover.
Yeah,
Tim
yeah.
Grover.
And he was just talking about how Jordan used to like love to eat a steak before he played, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's not right." But he was like, "Jordan feels great on the steak,"
Right.
you know. And it was like, you got to find what works for you, and that was his like pre-game thing. Was he ate a steak, and I thought that was so cool. So, but like back to what you were saying before, I think a coach would feel great if they just ate a well balanced meal, and not necessarily before, but like 2 meals before, like getting that energy
Sure.
into your body. And like someone who's going to be playing in the heat, like an athlete, they might need more carbohydrates, that fast burning energy before they're playing a game.
So how do you start that conversation? Because most young athletes don't want to hear that. I mean, they don't like, if you start talking about nutrition, it
Most
almost starts.
athletes, you mean most coaches too?
Most coaches for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
I just think like, why wouldn't you want to have every advantage over your competition?
that's where it has to start.
I mean, like, I can't wait to teach our boys about nutrition. Like, they're just too young now to
Yeah.
grasp it. I'm trying to work with the parents right now. We've just kind of like getting them tapped in a little bit with Fit Flavors.
how has that worked? I'd love to hear that. How are those conversations going?
Yeah, so we, like, one of our last tournaments just gave everybody a gift card to get them in there, to get their kids some meals before the game, to get them fueled up, just so they
Before
could
the weekend.
expose themselves to like what balanced nutrition looks like. And then, you know, just having conversations with the parents when I can, you know, one-off conversations. But I envision, you know, maybe when they're a little older, of probably having like a sit down, almost like meeting and talking about
Sure.
it with them and teaching them. I want to show them like categorize foods like proteins, carbs, fats, and vegetables like in categories, and show them like this is what happens when you eat this. This is the type of energy and result that you will get.
And I bet you anything in those conversations with those parents, I bet you hear stuff like, well, we're just too busy to do that. Or there's no way we can cook a 50-minute meal. We have no time.
But that's where it comes down to like, you have to be willing
I'm
to
just-
spend
Oh,
for
for sure.
that quality food.
But
Like
what-
here's an
well-
example. Like we were on a road trip. What did I always do? I was always
No, I
looking
know.
for the restaurant,
Yes.
right? I was looking
Yeah.
for the quality restaurant.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for like, let's
For sure.
go to.
You're like, oh, can I find something clean there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
something clean or something like it has to be clean. It has to be good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to a clean place that is god awful food. I'm just not going to do it. Like I like my food tastes good.
Yeah, you want to try to eat. You want to try to avoid fried food, and just eat a protein, a starch, and a vegetable. Like I think people overthink it.
For sure.
It's
That's what I was getting
really
at.
that's where I go back to like basic nutrition versus calculus. Is like when you look at your plate, you should see a lean protein, which is typically steak, chicken, turkey burger, fish, nothing fried and battered, and then like a rice or a potato. Or even if you're going to do a sandwich, you're going to have processed bread, but that could be your starch. And then some type of vegetable or even a fruit for a kid would be fine. They're super active. But putting that whole food into them, that's going to be full of those micronutrients.
Yeah. And that's what I'm getting at. I think that most parents, most players think that this is some crazy calculus equation.
Yeah.
They think it's so hard. I did.
complicated.
They think it's really, really complicated. They think that it's overwhelming. It's a task that like I have to spend all day, every day involved in it. And they don't understand. I'm speaking for myself. They don't understand how simple it actually can be, how it doesn't take all that time. It's conscious choices over and over, but there's so many things. And that's why I think like with Fit Flavors, when we sat down the first couple of times and talked, especially about your company, I think that you talk to the normal person really well, where you
Thanks.
don't try to sit on a pedestal up here saying, this is the only way and this is how you do it. I think you make it really simple in terms of good food, good quality portion. Like you can do this.
Convenience.
People
Yeah.
can do this.
Like I think of pasta as like a great example. Kids love pasta. Everybody knows how to cook pasta, but it's white and it's processed. Yeah, there is whole wheat pasta. There's lentil pasta. Those might be
Terrible.
better for you. But yeah, they're terrible. So like I would say if you want to eat white processed pasta, like pair it with a steak or a chicken or something and put some like red sauce on it. Don't smother it in like Alfredo sauce, and then salad or broccoli. Like
Right.
you've just taken a pasta that you know your kid is going to eat, give it to them in a reasonable portion, but put a protein and a vegetable with it, and now you've got a balanced meal. Like it doesn't have to be this perfectly cooked sweet potato every single time. Like that's not realistic and sustainable for a family or a kid.
Right.
You know, like we have to learn how to bend if we're going to do this for the next 20 years with
Yep.
our kids. You know what I mean? So that's where it's like, what's realistic and what's not.
No, 100%. And then, I mean, even in our conversations, you're like, I think you You use the term 80-20,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to explain that.
Yeah.
Because that hit home really well.
Thanks. So that's the other part of our philosophy. So with quality, portion control and balance is the 80-20 mentality. So it's like the 80% really stands for like 80% of the time I know I'm eating stuff that is going to help me reach my goals. It's good, clean food for my body. The other 20%, well, that's life. Or that's when I'm opting in to have cake, maybe a tequila, or just the oh shit moment where I'm grabbing something that I know I probably shouldn't eat. But, you know, if you can do that 80-20, and I have found over the years, that is so much better than what the general population can sustain. They will see results on that, and most people can sustain that. And then there's your elite people who can probably be more strict than that,
Sure.
but that's not the general population. And I don't think it's ever a good idea to get a kid in their head about dieting
100%.
at a young age. It's more about how are we going to fuel your body? Like, let's put whole food in your body. Let's make sure you're eating balance and getting kids eating fruits, veggies, and protein. Like,
At what point does it come where they have to have discipline, where you actually start teaching that?
I think they're going to opt in when they're teenagers. At one point, they're going to decide either they want to perform better and they care about those things, or they don't. I see it when I go to the gym. I see these kids there, and I'm like, dude, this kid's probably 16. You know, he's there at 6 a.m. before school. Like, he's opted in. His parents aren't forcing him to go. You know, there's going to be those kids that opt in, and I don't know what makes them opt in. I mean, can you?
I think as parents or a coach, like the more you can lead by example. Like the analogy I give, like if you drive in a car with your kids in the back seat from the age of 0 to 15, and you text when you drive, right?
They're going to text
and
and
then
drive.
you buy your kid a car at 16, you drive with them, like, hey, like, why are you texting and driving? Well, I've been watching you do it for 15 years. Like, this is not. So our theory is like, if you're gonna educate somebody to do something a certain way, like you should probably be doing it yourself. Rational thinking, right? And then I think as far as getting through with kids, I mean, if you could find athletes that are public about the way they eat and sort of highlight that, like they're always looking at those people
For sure.
and idolizing them, and if you can sort of walk them through like their lifestyle and what they've done and how they eat a certain way, more chance of getting buy-in. But we try to lead by example.
So it's creating an environment.
Yeah, like this is just what we do. This is how it is.
So then that leads to the question of like, how do you do that with a team?
Well, you know, we sponsor the team through Fit Flavors, and you know they're 8 right now, right? So we choose
I think
our
they're a little
battles.
young.
Best
I think
8U
they're a
team
little
out
young.
there.
Yeah. But you know, like she thinks our kids, you know, eat poorly, and I'm like, dude, our kids eat salmon, chicken, rice, broccoli, like multiple days a week. Like they are eating
They eat
really
so much
well.
sugar.
But like, you know, her expectations are probably a little bit higher. But you know, we just constantly. We try to not make it that big of a deal and just make it sort of like a normal life. So it's not daunting. Like you said, when it starts to become like a task and you're like telling them they have to do it just goes sideways. But if you're just like more matter of fact, like, hey, this is what we eat and what we do.
And another thing too is like I let them eat a lot of sugar. I do, because I don't want to be that mom that doesn't allow them, and then they don't.
Well, it's almost forcing versus making them buy in.
Yeah, and also too, like I'm so proud of Sal. Like sometimes he's like, no, I'm good on dessert, or he'll eat a couple bites and he'll stop. And I think sometimes, like, if I didn't give that to him, would he just stuff his face because he never gets it?
He's
so, like,
7. He eats a full muscle maker, which is 600. It's 2 cups of rice and a chicken breast and a half. It's 7. Crushes the whole meal. We eat it for breakfast sometimes before school. It's awesome because I eat the muscle maker almost every morning for breakfast. And every morning, like I'll sit down, I'll be like, "Sal, you want breakfast?" He's like, "No." And then I'll make a muscle maker, and then he comes and sits on my lap and eats mine. And then I have to go send him to school. Then I eat one, and I'm like, "Why don't you just eat your own?" Like but we're getting them there. You know what I mean?
My kids don't love scrambled eggs, but they'll eat them on a Hawaiian bun. So it's kind of like, all right, so
You're sacrificing.
There's a give and take, right?
Yeah, with a little bit of jelly.
It's a give and take, and it's just staying committed.
To get that protein in
not
them
letting them
before
bully
school,
you
so
around.
they're not just eating like I don't buy Lucky Charms. I buy Cheerios. That's it. I'm sorry. I'm not bringing that. That's where I don't bend. I go. It's
the line is on the cereal.
I go. It's got to have less than 10 grams of sugar in a serving.
But I love that because I think that like what you guys are doing and what you guys are doing, starting those conversations with the families and your team, it's getting a base layer to it. It's just like making it welcome that this is out there and it's attainable and it's achievable. And I think that's like, you know, we live in the world of high school baseball a lot because we see those athletes and just starting just doing one thing
Yeah.
is so important, because if you try to pitch them this complex situation of, okay, you got to count this, you got to know that, you got to do this,
overwhelming.
you're fighting, you're done. But if you say, if you can just do one thing for the next month and just stay consistent with it and build that base layer, and then all of a sudden, okay, then we'll add in this next thing. Then we'll add in the next thing. And then by that time, you're going to really start to see your body start to do something different, and you're going to start to see your skill level improve at a rapid rate. And then you're going to get what I would think most players do, you get so addicted to like seeing your skill level go, and feeling like you can just keep fighting every day. Well, then it's like, it's habit.
Another thing I try to do, like in a gentle way, is like when the kids will eat like, say, cupcakes or ice cream, and they'll be like, "Oh, my stomach." I'll be like, "Babe, you just ate a ton of sugar." I just try to help them make
Bring it to their attention.
A connection that like you don't feel good because you just crushed like a bunch of cake.
Like 40 grams of sugar.
Yeah, just knowing that, or like before we got a game, I'm like, "Hey, buddy, you're gonna fuel up. You got a game today. What are you gonna eat?" He's like, "I know, something good for me." So just like that, he's starting to realize I'm going to play a sport. I'm not going to drink soda or anything before I go play a game.
But then at the same time, okay, he goes through that situation, he's properly fueled, and he has a great game. He felt great the whole time. And then there's that, after game, so did you get it?
Yeah.
You see kind of why you did that? And then it keeps confirming why they should continue with that process, which again is the end part of that process, I think, from a coach or parent standpoint. I think just continue.
Sure.
I want to talk a little bit more on the youth side, but I want to dive back into high school. Youth parents, youth players are going to be traveling to these events in the summer. What's the hack?
So, I'm just going to do it as if we were going. If we were going to go and we were going to be out of town, I would be like, where are we staying? Is there a refrigerator in our hotel? Like, let's take some meals with us. Let's just pack the Fit Flavors meals, take a couple of them with us. And then, like, we would probably make stuff to, like, pack sandwiches to take to the game so we're not eating the concession food, Like, maybe you let them get one meal or something, like, throughout the weekend. But, like, you can't – I wouldn't want them eating that stuff in between games and drinking slushies and stuff, So just making sure we have enough water for them. Or we've even started giving our kids the Nuns. Have you seen those? They're like electrolyte boosters, like in the summer when it gets really hot. So it gives them a little flavor in their water, but it doesn't have any dyes in it or sugar in it. It's just electrolytes. And
so no Gatorade or anything like that? Yeah. No Powerade.
Occasionally we'll let them have it. Again, like I don't make really any hard rules, but I don't want them drinking a ton of Gatorade.
Yep. So let's just say you don't have that option where you just forget that you don't have time to make meals. You don't have time to, you don't have a refrigerator. What do you do?
We would probably go to the grocery store and pick something up and pack a cooler.
Okay.
Like I'm psycho, so I would find a way to make sure we had at least one healthy meal for the day, or we'd find a healthy restaurant the best we could when we were out of town.
So if I pinned you down and said you have to eat at restaurants, you would just make sure that
we would make it work.
You'd make it work.
We'd make it work.
So no fast food joints whatsoever.
We don't eat like that.
So no Chipotle, no nothing.
Chipotle we would eat at. Typically you can get chicken thigh there and rice. You just you watch the portions. Like I'm not going to overeat there. I would typically get like the veggies with the salad and stuff. But like my kids, I want them to load up on the rice and get the carbs and replenish and stuff like that. But I would say Chipotle is probably one of the better fast food options out there.
I think something you said that was really important in that conversation is the preparation side of it, is looking ahead. And like, I'll give you an example. Exactly. Takes a little work. And I'll give you an example, and I think this is the most crazy thing in the world. Like for last year, we had 17-year-olds who were looking to get recruited into college, and there were colleges coming out to watch these players play. And we had so many examples where, let's say we have a doubleheader, and we had a pitcher who's throwing in game 2, and he needs to fuel in between each game so he can have sustained energy throughout it. And where does he go? He goes right to the snack stand, and he gets nachos and a hot dog.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, that's so
And they do it all the time.
And you know what?
And I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
Concession stands don't have better food.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to.
I should open a concession
So
stand.
I was actually talking to one of my friends who is a higher up at sports facilities, which they have multiple facilities throughout the country. Like they run the big, like Elizabethtown is one of them that he helps run that. And I was trying to convince him to do something with First Form to get better, at least something like a level 1 bar or something like that. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but it seems like why wouldn't you have that healthy choice? Or
probably comes down to just food costs and money. It becomes money for the business.
Becomes margins and everything like that.
We played at this place. We played a tournament out in St. Peter's, and like I was really surprised, but they were like grilling their own burgers. And I was like, oh, at least they're making them. But I mean,
better.
who knows?
At least they're
A little better.
They're a little homemade, you know.
So the most frustrating thing as trainers for high school athletes is talking with them and saying, hey, you need to gain weight, and you need to gain weight faster, and you need to get in the weight room more. And then a month goes down the road, 2 months go down the road, and then we see them the next year and they still look the same. And you're like, I told you to gain weight. And he's like, Coach, I try. I eat all the time, but I'm not gaining any weight. Is it BS, or is it they're actually trying? Because again, I'd want your expert opinion on this.
So I think that's where the macros really do come in, and then like the natural body composition. I think some people are prone to be endomorph, ectomorph, or mesomorph. So some people are just going to gain muscle more easy. Some going to carry weight, and some are just going to be thin. That's your just genetic makeup. And so those really thin people are going to have a harder time putting on muscle, but like that's why the plan and having the macros is so important for them, because they can. It's just going to be harder for them than say someone who's just more muscular. You know how some people's are just built like that, but that's where if you're serious about your nutrition and you can get a plan and you can follow it, you should get results. If you're going to the gym, you're breaking down muscle fiber, you're rebuilding it by replenishing with carbs and protein, you should grow. I mean, that's science.
So
math.
It's math, yes.
Numbers
so
don't
part
lie.
of
and science.
So you're
Numbers don't
saying
lie.
part of it's BS, part of it is.
Well, when the kids say we eat, I mean, eating empty calories and processed food is a lot of empty shit calories.
And more times
and
than
so you're
not,
not going to grow.
It's just harder when you're just eating processed carbohydrates and not good proteins.
And you ask
Yeah.
them to break it down, because I've had this conversation a million times with young athletes. So I'm like, okay, well, tell me what you eat. And then they go through it and they're like, well, I have a smaller type of breakfast, and then I have a snack here and this. And they don't even understand how much they're burning. They have no concept at all. So they think that because they're full in a couple meals a day and that they kind of like their friends, or maybe a little bit more, that all of a sudden if I do that and weight lift a little bit, that I should just be, boom, see ya. And they have no idea. And they're probably at a calorie deficit anyhow.
Yeah.
They have no clue on that.
Yeah.
And they
Especially a teenager, the metabolisms are just ripping.
Yeah.
You know?
How much do you think they're burning?
A day?
Yeah, a day.
I don't know, 2 to 2,500 calories.
Just
maybe?
sitting
more.
there.
Yeah, probably more.
I don't
Sitting
know.
there,
It depends
yeah.
on how big they are, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, what's an average meal? I mean, I'm assuming they're exercising and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So that just puts it in perspective that you've got to put way more calories in when you're.
That's where the macro side, I think, really is
Yeah.
key. And that's
Yes.
so something that I think would be really neat to talk to high school athletes is kind of gamify that, is really put those numbers in front of them and say, you need this, this, and this, and this, and here's how you can get it. You know, and they don't know that stuff.
I mean, even just watching them food journal for like 2 days and then looking at what they
sure.
ate and talking to them about it it's kind of like, I used to make my clients journal for just a couple days just so I could see what they were actually eating, you know? And like I'd have women who would be trying to lose weight and they'd be eating like yogurts and like all these foods that were just like empty calories. It's like little lactose and fructose. It's like, this is doing your body no good, even though it's 100 calories. Like eat 100 calories of something that's good for you.
That goes back to the marketing. Like when you see
Yeah,
that,
Dan
that
and Light or
less.
whatever. Yeah, like
you
it's just
see
like
the
a
big
like
100 and like
yeah,
you
but
don't
it's like
realize that
sugar.
That 100 doesn't
it's
mean
just
anything.
sugar and yuck. There's nothing in there that's helping your body. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess you can eat Skittles and still be under 100 calories. you still get
You meet those some people, like I said, that have those freak genetics that are just thin by nature. They can eat whatever they want and they're thin. Those are going to be the people that are going to find it harder to gain weight.
So let's talk about like more energy, gain lean muscle, and peak athletic performance.
Okay.
So to gain lean muscle, you have to have protein, right? And you have like how much protein should one take?
I've heard it range anywhere from 0.7 to like 1 to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight.
So
It ranges.
So if you're at 100 pounds, you should be consuming at least 100 grams
Yeah,
of protein.
it depends. I mean,
70 to 100.
Yeah, 70 to 100, 100 plus if you're trying to gain. I mean,
And if you're not doing that, you're probably not gaining.
no, probably not,
Well, more. I mean, if you're practicing an hour and a half, 2 hours a day in summer and weight training, like it could be more than one.
And so I'm hearing everyone on the other line, 100 grams of protein, that's a lot of protein. How
But
do
if
I
you're not
equate
eating
you weigh-
protein,
it's
you're
only
eating
if you weigh
fat and
100 pounds.
carbs.
You know-
Da da da. Like, hello.
So like I'm 194, so like that's a lot of protein.
200 grams.
Yeah. So like how do you fit to? I know how I do it, but
Yep.
I want you to.
Okay, so if you're 200, if you weigh, let's just say 200 pounds, like 3 meals with 35 to 40 grams of protein is how much?
120.
120. 2 protein shakes with 2 scoops is 80. Boom, you're there.
So you're all in on supplements too.
Oh, I mean, it's going to help you. I mean, maybe you're doing a protein shake there, and then maybe the afternoon you eat another meal. Like we just eat meals. Like I like putting the whole food in my body versus protein shake, protein. But they're great. It's a great way to like take a shaker with you on the road, or like then there's the whole meal post workout. Like after you work out, you have this window of opportunity where your muscles are like, feed me, and like anything you eat just gets sucked up. It replenishes your glycogen stores. It's gonna get that protein back up in you. So if you're putting in 40 grams of protein and 40 grams of carbs post workout, it's just a replenish, and then you can eat again. That's
another thing that a lot of people don't think about is that I'm going to work out and do a bunch of cardio, and then I'm not going to feed myself after the cardio. I see a lot of kids do that where they don't.
Oh, why?
Because I think they don't realize that they have to feed themselves right after a workout, like even practices.
So
like
you have to have a healthy amount of carbohydrates stored in your body to perform. You know, I have this like bucket theory, and it's like everybody's got a bucket and they can hold so many carbohydrates in their bucket. And let's just say that bucket holds, I don't know, 200 grams of carbs. I'm just making up a number. Well, there's 4 calories per gram. So that's 800. Is that 800 calories of stored energy your body can hold in your muscles or your liver? And so as you deplete your glycogen stores, you got to fill it back up to perform and have all that energy, or you're going to start producing lactic acid, and you're going to run out, and your body's you're going to feel groggy. So like if you're emptying your stores and you're not replenishing, it's like you're a half empty gas tank.
That's what happens with pitchers hangovers. So do you know what the pitcher hangover is?
No.
So a pitcher hangover is after they have a start. So let's just say a guy throws 75 pitches. So in those 75 pitches, let's just say 30% of those pitches are like high intent. So you're in high pressure situations, 3-2 count, 2 outs, guy on third, stuff like that, right?
Mental energy.
Yeah. So you have everything is being used at that point. After they pitch, they do not restore their body with the right nutrition and like water, protein, because it's not a 1-to-1 comparison of working out. Like they don't view it that way. They view it as like, oh, I just played a game, so like
more times than not you're told to go run.
Yeah.
Yep.
More times than not you're told.
Now that you say that, after
I was a pitcher. I just threw a 90 pitch game. I'm worn out. I'm exhausted.
Who tells you to run?
Our coaches.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
is it
for sure. That was just the
recovery.
standard. That was the old standard.
Gotcha.
So the standard was that you would go run right after you pitch.
Yeah, like 30, 40 minutes. You're going to go run. You're going to go. It's the stand. It was to clear the lactic acid out.
Okay, I've heard that before.
And then you're like really exhausted
Toasted.
at that point. And you like, I can tell you so many times where my brain didn't even function at that point. Like I wasn't thinking
You're
about
running on fumes.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about getting a protein shake or making a meal. I was like, dude, where's the nap? Where's the couch? Like that's all I wanted to get to. And
where's the soda?
There's you know, if you went into that gas tank half full, and you're going to feel
For
like
sure.
Like if you went in with a full gas tank and you're ready to go, you're probably going to perform better.
Yeah.
Then you fill it up, you're going to probably avoid that hangover. You know what I mean? It's just replenishing electrolytes, like you said, water, and getting those good macros in there and helping your body recover. And your I'm sure your arms are
for sure.
Are pitchers' arms sore?
Oh yeah, for sure.
After
For sure. And I think the really interesting thing, because I kind of go back to when I was in college, nobody talked about the timing of your meals around an athletic event. No one talked about it. I mean, a typical day for me, when I was a Division II pitcher, so we didn't have the luxury of playing one game a day. We'd play 2 on the weekends, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. I would show up at the field at about 9 a.m. for a noon doubleheader. We would do field work, etc. I might have a breakfast before a little bit. I was never much of a breakfast eater, so if I could get a couple bananas in me or something like that, that was good. But then I would not eat until maybe in between games at 3.
Wow.
And let's say I'm starting that second game. I mean, I'm starting at maybe half a tank.
Wow.
I didn't notice it because I was still young.
Those
but
bananas, they just burn off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But no one talked about timing. I think that discussion's happening a lot more at the professional and collegiate level, and hopefully filtering down to where 2 hours before or whatever it is, you have to put this X amount in to have that type of performance output in your game. And then as you're in the game, there are things that you can put in your body to sustain and keep that flow going. And then right after, so you don't feel that crash, there's other certain things you can do. And then that's going to make you feel better the next day than if you hadn't.
Yeah.
And that's a big conversation that I think a lot of athletes don't get told, that if they were told that exact type of like equation, if you will, then they'd be like, wow, this is a game changer.
Yeah. I can specifically remember in high school going to away games and like, you know, I'd eat lunch. I don't even remember what I ate for lunch, but then I would get on the bus to go travel and I didn't have food. And like one of the moms would always bring us this big box of apples and bananas. And I was starving. So I'd eat 2 bananas and an apple, or 2 apples and 2 bananas. And by the time we would get there, I would feel so tired. I would just be like sleepy tired. And I know now I was having a sugar crash. Like I didn't have any protein and complex carbs. I was crushing sugar, even though it was fruit. But there was, I probably ate 4 pieces of something because I was so hungry after school before I went to play our softball games.
And the mom probably thought that she was doing you
good.
all a service.
Yeah,
it's
sure,
a healthy
totally.
food.
But it wasn't. It wasn't like like she should have given us peanut butter or peanut butter crackers with our apples or something. You know.
Yeah.
But
So what's the ultimate pregame meal?
I would say a balanced meal, definitely with good complex carbohydrates and protein. If you can get some veggies or fruit in there, great.
What's the timing on it?
You know, honestly,
let's just say it's a 12 o'clock game.
I think if you could get 2 meals in before you play, that'd be awesome. And if you're not a big eater, I would say you need to get 1 meal in with you. You know, and then if you're hungry in the dugout, like even maybe having a protein shake in the dugout.
So hour before you hit to pregame?
Yeah, I mean, like, you don't want to go with a bunch of food on your stomach if that's going to upset you. Like, him and I both can crush food and go work out. Like, that's just us.
But you've also probably built your body to do so.
I mean,
I
like,
think 2 hours before.
Yeah, I would say if you're not a person to eat and go activity, give your body some food, time to digest, because all that blood is going to your stomach, you know. But like, I can easily eat and go do something, you know. But everybody's different. But I would say having that, it's more so like, have you properly fueled like the night before and the morning, getting that bucket full. You know what I'm saying? Like loading up. It's like what you put in your body right now might help you not get lightheaded, but the fuel that you're running off is also what you ate for breakfast and the night before, because that's what's stored.
Really?
Yeah, it's going back because that food is just in your belly. I mean, how fast are you going to digest some rice or potatoes? Like, you need to have that food in your body, I would say, and have your stores up and loaded and ready to go. That's why it's an ongoing thing.
Would you do rapid assimilation protein at all?
You mean like an isolate?
Yeah, well, no, like something that hits your system a little bit faster.
Like an isolate.
Yeah, so nothing that is slow digesting, but more like it's pretty quick.
Sure. I mean,
what
you
is
could,
that?
like an isolate versus
I don't know what
like
that is.
Isolate is just a type of protein that doesn't have like as much, what would you say, casein in it, and it just breaks down faster. The protein molecules break down a lot quicker. So isolate's supposed to be really good post workout, so they say, because it doesn't take time to digest, it just right to your muscles. Actually, they say post workout it's actually good to have some simple carbs because it helps transfer the protein even quicker into your system than, say, a complex carbohydrate.
So like, what would you,
That's why you see bodybuilders drink like isolate and like sometimes like, what is it? I'm going to say it wrong.
Maltodextrin.
Thank you.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I just got smarter hearing that.
It's just a form of carbohydrate that's going to digest quickly. So it's just carrying it to your muscles and replenishing the glycogen quicker.
What about like...
That's getting really sciencey though. I think that's overthinking it. Like just eat food after you work out. That's good for you. Yeah.
What about like the healthy bars, like energy bars?
You know, here's my thought on bars.
Like Cliff bars and all that,
They're great in a pinch. Don't make it your habit to eat that every single day. Like, it's a processed food. Make your own
If
bar.
you're driving between Kansas City and Wichita in the middle, it's not a bad option, right?
There's nothing there.
So what's so funny is like I've had Fit Flavors for how many years, and I feel like Jay really got on the Fit Flavors wagon several years ago and really got into eating the food consistently, and he just really started seeing different results with his physique, and he's like, holy cow, I didn't realize how much I was overeating at times or going long periods of time without eating or eating Cliff Bars. He was eating too many. He's like, God, I would have a banana and 2 Cliff Bars for breakfast. I was like, eh. Now he eats chicken, broccoli, rice. I mean, he doesn't like to eat breakfast food, so he'll just eat chicken and rice. But it's a balanced meal, so it's just so much cleaner on the system. And it's such, like with whole food, you're eating a large portion. Like you can eat chicken, broccoli, and rice, and it's less calories sometimes versus eating something processed that's just full of maybe saturated fat or a bunch of sugar, where you're not going to get that when you eat whole food. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on energy drinks?
I don't like them for kids.
What age would you?
Probably 18 or 21 when they're adults. Like, God, don't get hooked on that stuff.
Holy cow!
They crush them.
Yeah.
So
It's a bad
We
deal.
don't even drink
You'd
them.
wish there was regulation on it.
Oh, man. I just feel like, one, it probably makes you not hungry. And so they're probably eating less on them. It's giving them this false sense of energy, gets them off their natural circadian rhythm where they're probably wanting to stay up late. Then they're groggy for school. Then they're drinking another one. Like, I just think it's almost like, if you think about it, it's like a little mini drug. You know, I just don't like any of that stuff. I'm thinking, why would you want to, if you needed one, I guess you could have one, but why not just drink like a cup of coffee?
It was really
You're
funny.
17. You
I know.
They show up.
Right.
Right?
Energy.
That's the problem is like we don't even realize how bad we feel that we think it's normal to drink energy drinks at 15 or 16.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
No.
One of the guys I follow, he's in finance, and he tweeted out, because he lives in Puerto Rico. He's like, oh, I opted out for the croissant and I went in for the coffee. I'm so proud of myself. And then someone tweeted at him and said, oh, you went with the drug instead of the food. Nice job. He's like, tip the hat. Good job.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of get that false sense with the caffeine that it's giving us energy, but it's actually just kind of delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, and the more you drink it, the more tolerance that you build up, and then you're
Sure.
just like loading stimulants in your body, which could have a reverse effect if like you really get hooked on them. You could trash your adrenals, you know, and really have a
Eat a cup of rice, man.
Just eat a cup of
Eat
rice.
a cup of rice.
So I'm guessing you're not a fan of pre-workouts or anything like that.
You know, everybody, you do you, boo. Like, I have my own. Look, I just have my own set of values and standards for my own body, and I would never poo-poo on anybody. But like, I wouldn't want to put that stuff in my body. I'm pretty sensitive to stimulants, but like, I know it helps a lot of people. If they just want to drink it before a workout and have a killer workout, great. You know, but it's that on all the energy drinks and all the stimulants. Like, just be careful. You know, that's all. Especially with kids, that makes me nervous. You know, but I don't feel like I need that. But you know, I know a lot.
Do
of
you
people
feel like you get that from a balanced diet and from food?
Yeah, I feel great when I go work out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like working out at night. I'm not as
Sure.
energetic, but yeah, I don't know. I know I've done pre-workout before
Sure.
and all that stuff. I've done it all.
So if I am addicted to caffeine and I can't get off of it, and
Yeah.
I like caffeine, at what point should I stop taking caffeine in the day so that I'm able to get that sleep? Because a lot of people undervalue sleep.
Yeah, I would say probably like 2-3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Just cut it off.
You probably want to, or if you had to cut it back, maybe cut back your portion and start cutting yourself back, because you're gonna get that like caffeine withdrawal.
I just looked at my watch. It's 3:47, and I have a coffee here. So
I want to switch gears a little bit, talk a little bit about teams, because you run a team with your business, and then obviously Jason has his team. How big is the community aspect of your team, and then how do you cultivate a good community around that? Anyone?
You want to go?
Bueller?
Yeah. We've gotten really lucky with our team. Faith is a big thing for us. So when we put our team together, like, we were pretty upfront and transparent with people that the word and faith is important to us. And I think that just kind of naturally drew some people to our team that had kind of similar beliefs and mindsets and goals for how they want to raise their kids. We try to do things outside of baseball with the kids as well. So one of the things that I personally do is in the winter, I go watch all my boys play their other sports. I go to their hockey games, I go to their basketball games, I go to their soccer games, and I just support them in the other stuff that they're doing. And the parents, they say it goes like such a long way with the kids. Those are two things.
We've
I
had
don't know
some
what else.
sleepovers at our house.
Yeah, we do a team sleepover every year.
That was
which
chaos.
10, 11 boys sleeping over is interesting.
I made them filet mignon.
And right, she did.
You don't hear that at a 9U sleepover very often.
And you know what? They tear it up too.
They tear it up.
They do. Yeah.
Like,
So
they're gonna love me.
I think just being involved in their lives outside of baseball helps build community inside of baseball, both with the kids and the families.
The reason I asked the question is because it feels like we're kind of losing that a little bit, just because of how big this world is now with the phones and the iPads and the computers. Because I remember back in my day, I went to Catholic school, and the community was so tight knit. It was extremely tight knit. Like everyone knew who everyone was. People would support each other, go to games, and like these are people that don't even have a sports background sometimes, and they'll come and hang out with you. Do you just start that from the very beginning? Like, do you just like say, hey, these are the values that we have, and this is what we're going to do, and then whoever's not in, they just opt out and they just leave, and you have that churn?
I wouldn't say anybody left, but people certainly sort of came.
It was when we started the select team. We kind of put out like, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're gonna.
Kind of planted your flag and said,
here's how we're building the team on.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, from communication, and here's the values that we believe in, and here's how our team's going to be ran, which I think is really important. Yeah. Because that gets it out in front, and you do attract the people who want that. Because I think people, they don't, more times than not, we talk about this on the podcast, I think a lot of parents get into team situations or clubs, and they don't even know what they're looking for, and they're not asking the right questions. And I think that's where situations go awry a lot.
Well, they chase the status, they chase the eliteness rather than the community aspect, which then gets you
what's
to,
right for their kid.
Yeah,
correct.
Which then gets you to the elite status, which a lot of people kind of don't realize is that like if you kind of switch the priorities from status and elite and put that under and put I want to be close to a really good community and really good people, the eliteness ends up coming.
You know, I think we've talked about, you know, just like I'm big on visualization. Like I visualize a lot.
100%.
I have a whole chapter in my book about visualization and the power of it. And I visualize what it's going to be like with these boys, like 13, 14, and then seeing them in high school. And like, I just picture them at my house, and I picture feeding them, and I picture him like mentoring them as boys and men, because like they find him as like a safe place. Like I see this in my head. And
how detailed do you get?
Really detailed, enough detailed to like picture them, what I'm feeding them, and them in my house throwing a football in my living room. Like I can see this,
cool.
And I'm like, you know, we're just creating this safe space that's fun and lighthearted, but you know, we trust Coach Jason, and then it's like an opportunity to create like a platform for them to ask us questions and build trust. And like the only way we're going to get that trust at 16, 17 is if we put in the time now. So like I look at this as like the long game. And so I say that to him all the time. Like the long game is putting in the time now with the family dinners around the table. So when they're 12, 13, and 14, we've already been eating family dinners at the table. It's just normal. And then we have this platform of 30 minutes of open conversation with our boys, where now we can have a talk about what's going on in their life.
Yeah. Well, then it just opens up everything.
Yeah.
And you realize what's actually happening.
Yeah. And I hope, you know, like
we did something over the summer where, you know, we started this team with 6 players from our old team, and then we went to the Tigers tryout to kind of fill it out. So I told the 6 boys that were with us for the past 4 years, like, you know, you guys have a big job here. Like, there's going to be kids coming in that they don't know you. So, like, you need to make them feel welcome and like they're family and like they're your team from day one. I told them I don't want, like, 2 groups, right? Like, I want there to be one group, and that's not my job. Like, that's your job on the field, in the drills. Like, don't exclude anybody. Like, don't play catch with one of the 6 guys in the warm-up that you know, like play catch with somebody you don't know. So what we did this summer when we got the team together, we threw a big pool party. and invite everyone out, and the parents got to like
It was
sit
awesome.
poolside,
Starts
have a
that
beer,
culture right off
and
the
like
bat.
meet the parents, and like so that when they show up to the first game, like you're not showing up.
There's
to,
no
like,
cliques.
There's no strangers. Like we all just had beers by the pool. The kids jumped off the diving board for 5 hours, and like we're good. Everyone's on the same page right now, and I think that really helped like the team kind of like
Gel.
come together like
Yeah.
really really quick.
That
Makes
was
you feel
awesome.
like a family. It's not.
Yeah,
it's
big
not
time.
It's not
Yeah.
individuals. It's
Totally.
a family.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you view it as a full year thing. You don't view it as
Totally.
6 months or 5 months.
No.
Oh, this is like one of our life commitments right now. I
Yeah,
would
no,
say.
I'm all in. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've never heard
Totally.
it said that way. I
I'm
really
so
like
proud
that.
to say I'm a Tigers
It's
coach.
That's
part of-
awesome.
It's part of our life and routine. Yeah.
How do you do it with your business?
Um,
Because you have how many locations? I don't want to butcher the locations because I know you guys are expanding. Like,
Yeah.
what-
So we have 5 right now. We're
Yep.
opening our 6th.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's a lot going.
Yeah.
Like, I remember we went from Baldwin to Chesterfield, and we kept Baldwin, and it was like a big dramatic moment of like, how are we going to do 2 locations?
Yeah.
That's a lot of locations.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like
3
it's just
almost
2.
broke me. 3 was. Oof. It took me a couple of years to come back from that.
But how do you cultivate that community? Sorry, how do you cultivate that community with all those locations? Because people are all over the city, and like even though you're in a city, the same city, there can be a lot of breakdown there.
Yeah, a lot of it falls on me and like just my time and where I can be and who I can touch. Every conversation I have is an opportunity to promote the brand and the product and make an impact. And I think we're pretty involved with the community. I mean, through our like events, but then also through our philanthropy. We do a lot, with the St. Louis Food Bank. We have a charity in North County that we support, and we provide them education as well as food. And we have a couple other ones that we partner with as well. But it's just time, over the years is just making sure as we grow, our philanthropy and our extracurricular stuff grows. And so I think a lot of it has to do with the people that work at the business too,
Sure.
like, helping support them on their interests as well and getting them involved with the community. So it's taken time. It's had to be a focus, because if you don't focus on it, it can totally not be a thing. And it's definitely been a focus for us. I want Fit Flavors to be a brand. I wanted it to be a local lifestyle brand that people felt like Fit Flavors is a part of my lifestyle. And it's almost like wearing the Nike swoosh, like you're proud. Like I wear Nike. It's kind of like I eat Fit Flavors, like I care about quality. I care about my health.
Because I feel like a lot of people, there's a lot of things that they buy, but they don't feel connected.
Yeah, so it's just through all the times I'm speaking and being out in the community. It's all the ways that we can touch people, or at the events that we're at, and giving out free products and stuff, and just getting our products in people's hands and making impact with the people that we partner with.
Yeah, because I think about like people that are in corporate 500, and they're like, sometimes they probably don't feel connected. Like my wife's went through that, where
Yeah.
she would be with one company and she absolutely loved it because everyone's connected, everyone has that community. But then she goes to a different company and it's like total.
Are you talking about internally or externally with the community?
Internally?
Internally with the
So that's what I wanted to get at.
Oh,
too,
I'm
is-
sorry.
No, but I think that was a perfect answer on the external, but like
So
internal, because I think there's a lot of the dads are in corporate 500 and they also coach Tiger teams. So I think it's kind of cool having that cross section between. We just talked about how you've just connected the team together. How can someone do that internally inside of a business or inside of a team where they feel a little bit more connected?
How can they do with?
So like, because you have a business, you have 5 locations, you're going
It's
on
time.
your 6.
It's just it's time
So
and
you're
intent.
you're investing into the
And
people.
intent. It's what are you visualizing, and like how do you bring it to fruition, and understand like this does not happen overnight. Like it takes time. Like I just look at my business and how it's ebbed and flowed over the years. It's grown, and I've definitely gone through some hard times. I've had turnover and stuff like that, and it's like, how do I get the employees to buy in? How do I get people to opt in? You got to create opportunities for them and make it fun for them and give back to them and invest in them. So like
I think one of the things, she built a culture committee at her company.
Oh, no way.
So this
That's
is a
cool.
committee
Yeah.
of typically non-managers.
Yes, they have to
but
be.
employees that want to have a voice and be a voice
From
of
every
the
department.
company, and they need to bring ideas to the committee. And we'll do barbecues. We're going to do a company Olympic Day this year.
That's cool.
Which is going to be awesome.
he's got MC.
Yeah.
Well, and two, it's like what is gonna, they're bringing ideas to us. So now it's not all on me now I'm putting it back in their hands. All right, you guys want to create this culture, what do you want to create, and so giving them more involved has created more buy-in, and then they've kind of pushed it out and throughout.
Managers get to choose an event per quarter to do with their staff, and
so it's
company
almost
picks it
like
up.
you release control a little bit.
Totally. You gotta give back.
Yeah.
You gotta incentivize them to buy in. So I think when people take full ownership of whatever they're in, there's more buy-in. So you got to give them some ownership to take. So if they can take ownership of being on that committee, there's more buy-in.
Which then goes back to what he did with his players, which is like
same thing.
The 6 players. Hey, this is your team. You got to make sure that everyone feels included. You almost created your own.
It's actually one of our core values is take full ownership.
That's
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
You created your own culture committee inside your team.
Teaches them, gives them accountability.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
Team sports,
same thing, just
business.
different.
It's all
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah. I mean, because they're 9 years old, they're going to have to learn at some point.
Sure.
And that's a huge advantage when you are 9 years old and you're already learning that.
These guys were tight. They were playing together for 4 or 5 years already. Like, they're thick as thieves.
I got to give him props too. Like, another thing I will say, when we came out after the first year, I was really impressed with him as a coach. I didn't think he was going to be that good.
We're gonna have coach reviews.
He's so like kind and patient. I just didn't think he was going to be like, but he was. I was like, oh my God, you're so good with these kids. And like, I was actually the one who was like, I couldn't speak. Like, I was just like annoyed that I'd have to keep saying the same thing over again. So I'm just the dummy out there at practice. I'll shag balls, I'll hit balls, I'll do whatever. Yeah. Where do you need me, coach? And it's like watching him lead these kids, but then also like turning them into good people. Mm-hmm. Like we have he has like no tolerance for when they act a certain way, or if they act up. He's had offline discussions with parents and kids outside of practice, and about their character. And I've just been so impressed, because I'm like, these are the things that you are like doing that are going to make them good humans. He takes so much ownership in it.
How are those conversations go when you talk about character with the other parents? Like, if you have an issue with a player's character, how do you approach that? I've never thought about it that way, but like, how do you approach that?
I mean, every conversation I've ever had to have was accepted with open arms.
Totally.
And I think that's, we earned their respect over the past couple of years to know, they know our intentions are in the right spot, and they know we probably see things on the field that they don't see. And once again, we've gotten really lucky with the group of parents that we have, where they're like, dude, I want my kid to be a better human,
That's
not
awesome.
just a better baseball player. And I constantly talk about, creating captains over MVPs, right? Like, I don't think our job coaching 8 and 9 U is to create the next Derek Jeter. Sorry, I'm a Yankee fan. That's another coach's job down the road. Like, I would feel that we did our job as coaches, that when we hand these kids off at 14 to either a Tigers coach or a high school or college, like, that coach looks at that kid and says, somebody got their teeth into this kid and did a really good job. Like, good humans, respectful, hard worker, takes care of their stuff, and then they're ready for the next level of development.
That's where I think a lot of coaches get it wrong. They
That's,
view it as a skill.
I want a team
we
of
gotta make the skill
captains at
set.
this age over MVPs. Like, I want them, like you point, like, your boy strikes out, like, pick him up when he comes in the dugout, right?
Yeah, and I heard like so many kids are dropping out of baseball
Yeah.
when they're older, and like because it's not fun or it's too much. So it's like we're trying to find a healthy balance, because like we're extremely competitive people, but at the same time we're like, it's the long game. Like, we want these boys playing in high school, so like it's got to be fun. It can't be too overbearing. So it's like, how do you find that healthy balance?
Yeah, like Project Play. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's by Aspen Institute, and they have a committee every year that visits in, I think it's Denver. Mm-hmm. It's Denver. Mm-hmm. And like, they show that baseball peaks at 12 and 13, and then when it gets to 14 and 15, and then just went
Really? Is that like sophomore year?
Freshman, sophomore year. I mean, you're
Is
gonna,
where you peak?
yeah, it's like
you peak at 12.
You peak
Okay,
at 12.
so eighth grade.
The peak, 6th grade.
6th grade.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep, you're good.
Off.
You're good. No, you peak at 12, and then whether it's other opportunities or other things that are drawing your attention, or just the overall demand, or the
things that are getting
experience.
your attention, like girls.
Yeah.
I think that's the girl index, right?
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So something we always talk about is not only game adoption, but keeping kids involved in the game with this through experience, what you're talking about. And I think where you're going about it in a really great way is it's more than baseball.
Yeah.
It's more than baseball.
Yeah.
And sports, sports have taught me so many things that are applying to my life today, that if I wasn't involved in sports, I
Totally.
don't know where
Totally.
that would have been. And that wasn't what I learned on the field necessarily, but maybe in a practice setting or a backyard, play around with the team and things of that nature. That's what a lot of it's about.
Yeah.
And so
We talk a lot about the fine line between having fun and like goofing off and being disrespectful.
Sure.
He talks
Like,
about that all the time.
that for me is like a hard line. I want you to have as much fun, but don't pour dirt down your friend's back online.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
100%.
yeah. And failure too. I mean, you guys know, right? This game's a game of dealing with failure, right? And there's a lot of transferable knowledge from baseball, and we've had in business like best baseball players in the world fail 7 out of 10 times, right? And they get paid buku contracts, right? And people look at her business and be like, "Oh, you were successful." I'm like, "Yeah, you don't know."
You don't
You
realize
didn't
the
see
grind.
Some of the dark
grind.
days, and once again, we're only at the 9U level, but these kids have such high expectations of themselves,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
And I think some of that is kind of manufactured by social media and the
For
access
sure.
to like YouTube. Like they don't go online and watch errors made by Tatis. They go watch Tatis's top 100 plays, right? And then they get in their mind that like they should never make a mistake. And we saw last year, like first year kid pitch, like we had some kids that threw absolute gems for 9 years old, but they gave up 4 runs 1 inning. And it's like their world is coming to an end. And I'm like, you just pitched 3 innings and gave up 4 runs at 9 years old. Like you're good, man.
Yeah,
Trust
yeah.
me, you're good.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And I just think some of that, you got to be careful with that, the electronics and stuff like that. It's tough to monitor.
I keep on mentioning this Netflix documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Breakpoint. It's about tennis, and they actually take you through not just the highlights, but like the struggles of these 1 through 150 and how
That's cool.
much of a struggle it is to actually like, you're going to choke. It's going to happen.
Sure.
You're still ranked number 10 in the world, but
Yeah.
you're going to suck at some point.
Yeah.
It's just how you're going to handle it. You're going to throw your racket.
Yeah.
You're going to pout. You're going to put the towel over your head. If you do, then how do you actually respond back from that? Which at 9 years old and 10 years old is such a huge advantage when then you get into the workforce or whatever you get into, or even if you start a business, because then you know like, oh, I'm in the grinding mode. This is gonna suck
Sure.
for like 3-4 months, and I just have to keep grinding. And that's what sucks about when it gets to 13 and 14. Kids think that it's all over, and I didn't cut it. I'm not going to make Major League Baseball. I'm not going to make college baseball. Why even try? It's like, man, I would play just because. That's
Sure.
I was one of those guys that I just wanted to play, and I feel like we're thinking that Major League Baseball is the goal or college baseball is the goal. That's not necessarily the goal.
Sure.
That's just part of the journey.
Yeah.
And I think like
Agreed.
we just, as coaches, we kind of put too much admiration in like the elite level or the elite status. Like, oh, if you're not going to be a college player, then I'm not going to work with you. Like, I just think that's just crap. So,
Parents got to be careful with that too.
Yeah.
yeah, which is tough because
Yeah.
again, like in the informational age, highlights, TikTok, Instagram,
All the good stuff.
it's all the good stuff.
All the good
Like
stuff.
Sports Center top 10. Now you have it 24/7, and
Yeah.
now you have it down. We were talking about this in the last episode. You have it all the way down to like Snapchat and Instagram, where it's like the kids now, high school ages, where you can see the not top 10 of the high school kids that had like a flop on the court or they had a slam dunk on the court. Now it's like, well, if that guy's doing it, then why even try? You know,
Wow.
which is
Yeah.
tough. And I don't think a lot of parents realize like that phone is actually destroying them actually going out and playing the game.
Jeez.
I agree.
Wow.
Yeah.
I agree.
Have you ever
I
seen the
agree.
movie Social Dilemma?
I haven't seen it.
You have?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it's creepy. Super creepy.
It's very
You should watch
creepy.
it.
Yeah.
It's exactly what
How
you're
the
talking
algorithm.
about.
Oh, really? I
So,
haven't
yeah.
seen it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
it's
But the
actually
plot?
like a bunch of big wigs that left like Google and Apple
Yeah.
and
Facebook
Facebook,
and
and they're talking about like the psychology
How
behind
they go
it.
attack your insecurities and everything. They can
Everything.
figure everything out.
Just watch it.
Yeah.
Riker, you would like it.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's just gonna make me feel like so bad about the world.
It's gonna make you put your phone down.
Oh man. What is one thing in youth sports that's most needed that you think right now that you guys have just entered in? You started your teams and now you've seen it on the parent side. Now you're on the coaching side. What's one thing that's needed in youth sports? Because like club directors, we think
Yeah.
we have an idea, but again, like Dave said, We're not coaching youth teams, so we don't know.
I think the electronics are a big battle. I think really limiting. We had 2 teams for a while. I was coaching my younger kids team for a while. So we had 24 kids every week. I could tell you without a question which kids were numbed on electronics and which were not. So I think you're battling for attention, right? Because those electronics are like super stimulating, right? I think parents need to chill a little too. I saw an awesome meme yesterday. Mom's cooking breakfast. Kid comes downstairs, probably 10 years old. Mom, you're not cracking the egg right. You got to crack it this way. And she's looking at him. And he's like, you're holding the pan on the wrong angle and your flame's up too high. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, I know how to cook eggs. He goes, now you know how I feel at home plate.
Oh.
Whoa.
Wow. Oh, that's good.
Whoa.
Damn.
I'm going to steal that one.
And she just looks at him, and he just looks at her, and he walks away.
I read a book. I read a book. It was called With Winning in Mind, and it's written by a Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
And he's his whole thing is about like mental game and like how he trains professional athletes and Olympic athletes now on the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and self-image. And he was talking big on that in the book and how parents just need to shut up in games and not say anything. And I'm like, damn, not even cheer him on. He's like, you shouldn't say anything because your kid hears you and it just gives them something that doesn't make them feel what they should feel if you weren't there. And I was like, wow.
I think parents need to re-engage with their kids a little bit. Like me and my boy, we play catch every single day. And we got a guy that walks his dog, and he's been seeing us for 5 years every day. And he said to me one day, he goes, I walk miles every day with my dog through this neighborhood. He goes, I don't see anybody ever out here doing this. Like, you do pitching lessons, right?
Yep.
Like, why do parents think sending a kid to you for an hour a week for pitching lessons and doing nothing at home is going to serve them any good?
Correct.
Like, whether you're good at baseball or not at home, just being a rebounder and someone to throw the ball to, like, just get outside and play with your kids.
100%.
Get off the electronics and just go outside. And you don't got to be good at baseball.
It's a really good point.
You just got to
be there,
play
do it.
with your kid. Like, the kids that are excelling are the ones that are getting reps and playing at home. And it's good for the family relationship. It gets the kids off the electronics. And frankly, listen, this is a tough sport to get good at, right? Like, you can go run around a soccer field and, like, look busy, right?
Yeah.
And not play soccer, but, like, you can't stand at home plate and not look like you play baseball or look like you play baseball. Like, it's a really, like, individual type effort. And I think if you just give your kid reps at home, they're going to get better. And the better you are at something, the more likely you are to enjoy it, the more likely you enjoy it, the more likely you are to stay with it. And I think that starts now.
One of my friends who I played with, he just joined the Tigers. He's down in New Mexico, and he has a rule, analog life. And
What is it?
It's called analog life. And his kids have to live an analog lifestyle. So they don't have any digital stuff.
Oh, analog?
Analog life.
I've never heard that word before.
So like it's just like they can't have screens, they can't have any of that.
Interesting.
It's just that they have to be outside playing.
They're probably going to be so much more socially advanced just because the conversations they're having with their parents on a regular basis. You know?
100%.
Because they're not numbed out on
Like,
the screen.
it's balanced, right? Listen, there is some good. We talked about it before. Like, these kids' baseball IQs is greater because they get to watch plays.
We watched
over and
Vinny's
over.
IQ
but
drastically go up
it's a
over
fine
the winter
line,
from just watching all of the YouTube clips. He knows all the equipment. He knows all the teams. He knows all the players. He's be like, oh, yeah, he was drafted last week. I'm like, how do you know this?
You got to get outside and play with your kids.
All the
balance.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
You got to go outside and play with them.
I would say all the players now are probably way more skilled and better than I was.
The drills
when
are
I was
also
playing.
way better.
Yeah,
I follow
way
some
better.
of these people on
Yeah.
Instagram. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, sure.
why wasn't I doing this stuff? Nobody was doing this with me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
My
much
dad was hitting me
content.
golf
Yeah.
balls. I got a whole story on that.
Can you dive into that?
Yeah, he would take me with a painter's bucket with a bunch of golf balls, and sometimes he'd make me get down on my knees, and he would say, if you can catch a golf ball, you can catch a softball. And he would hit them at me, I swear. And I had a black mouth guard. I played third base. He called it the hot box. So he's like, you got to be ready for that shit, Jillian. And, then he would pitch them at me underhand, and he'd like, maybe drag bunt, slap bunt, switch hit, slap hit, everything. I was
more
the number
extreme
2.
That's more extreme than what my dad did. He was like, all right, go out there. You're not going to have a glove. I'm going to hit you ground balls. I feel like that's a little bit more extreme than what he did. That's crazy.
The golf balls.
But it probably made you pretty good.
I actually really liked it after a while because I realized I was getting better than people. I made varsity my freshman year.
for sure.
Yeah, just stuff like that. And then it just made me want to practice more.
That's cool.
I think that's one thing that a lot of people are missing too is the creativity side, coaching creativity. We talked about that with Devin Morgan. Like a lot of kids don't realize like, yeah, it's cold outside, but you can probably go to any field and take ground balls. Like it doesn't have to be this baseball field. It just has to be a field.
Yeah.
And then you just need a baseball and a bat.
Yeah.
Like a lot of kids don't realize, like back in the Civil War, they would have their bats and gloves with them when they were walking to their next route, and then they would probably play a game on just a random field. And a lot of kids think, oh, we have to have a baseball field, we have to have a facility. No, you don't. Just figure out a way. Like there's a cool account on Instagram. It's this former Japanese player, and he's teaching kids how to field, and they're out there in the cold in the winter and actually taking ground balls, and these kids are absolutely loving it. And like it's on frozen ground and everything.
They
and
don't care that it's cold.
They don't care.
They don't care. You care. They don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
If you make it seem like it's the best thing in the world, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Give me another ground ball.
Yeah.
So, guys, this has been an awesome conversation. I appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you.
Dave, you got anything else that you want to ask?
No, it was awesome. I mean, a lot of tons of insight on my side from the nutrition side. The way that you're building a community around your team and the culture that's so needed, and it's gonna just it's the experience level, right? That those kids are just absolutely loving every aspect of. There's so much more than just playing the game, which I love that you're doing that. So thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Where can they follow you?
I'm just Jillian Tedesco on Instagram, Fit Flavors, and my business is fit_flavors_STL on Instagram.
So if you're in St. Louis, make sure you come over and grab a Fit Flavors.
Oh yeah, check us out on the website. It's www.fit-flavors.com.
Yep.
Thank you.
Jason, you want to follow you? Or you,
Nah.
you-
Follow her. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. You can follow me at Spiker Helms on Twitter. You can follow Dave at David_Berkby. We will catch you in the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.